Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Shannon Brown. Shannon, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing very well. I am so glad that we were finally able to make this happen. You are a very busy lady, so I'm glad that you were able to fit me in here for a little bit. Now, before we talk about the reason that you're here, Shannon, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. Shannon is a horror and comedy writer and director based in Los Angeles. You can watch her short Demon Juice through Screamfest and later this year through Trauma Now, which is awesome. You will be involved with Uncle Lloyd over there. And her upcoming short Overnight will be hitting festivals shortly. So let's first off talk about Demon Juice.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's out now. I don't want it spoiled, but what can you give us a little bit of a spoiler-free synopsis for people that haven't seen it yet?
Yeah, so the synopsis is a group of friends go on this getaway weekend that's kind of turned upside down by this decades old mysterious drink. It's a possession horror comedy about a group of friends. And I don't know, I think it's very fun. It's something that it's something that I hadn't really seen. Like you see, it's always like, a bunch of guys on a getaway weekend and guys doing
Sure.
like slapstick gross out comedy, and I wanted to do that with women.
I'll tell you right now, one of my wife's favorite movies, her favorite non-horror movie of all time is Bridesmaids. And that's what
Yeah.
you get. You get, the women on their weekend being slapsticky, being over the top. And I think that's amazing because, like you said, there is this stigma around women being vulgar and, men talking about notches on their belt is cool, but for a woman, she's a whore. We still have that type of stigma. So I love to see, especially a female led cast with a female writer director saying, you know what? Stick it. We're going to do it and we're going to do it good. So, I love that. And that's something, like you said, it's a horror comedy. Horror has always been ahead of the curve when it comes to social issues, putting women at the forefront of their films. And the fact that you're doing this, I think that's absolutely amazing. So, if you guys haven't already, all of Shannon's social media links are down here in the description. So make sure you're following her on social media so that way you can check out the film as well as other films that she will be working on, such as Overnights. Same thing. This is going to be hitting the festival circuit shortly, but it hasn't yet. So, kind of a spoiler free synopsis. What can you tell us about Overnights?
Yeah, so I've worked in the veterinary industry for almost 10 years, and I started out as a veterinary receptionist in an ER hospital. So you see some pretty like wild things, like things you never expected and things like you thought would be like physically impossible are like you're like beholding, it's like
Right.
bizarre. So Overnights is inspired by that experience. It's about an overworked vet tech who's got to kind of like trying to figure out how to not spoil anything. She just sees a bunch of like really weird stuff and ends up having to, fight for her life.
Legit. I can't wait to see it. And I feel like a lot of times when you have, whether it's a short or a feature or whatever have you, when it's based on personal experience and you could take something that was very, very personal to you and fictionalize it, I feel like those are the best stories that are told because there's a real heart and a real soul going behind this because you've lived these moments. So I'm very excited to check that out. And if you guys stroked out on me 2 minutes ago, all of her social media links are still down in the description. So make sure you're following her so you can stay up to date on that because I promise you this is not the last thing she's going to do. I know that, when you're a writer, director, you're always moving. The hamster's always running on the wheel. Now, do you have anything coming up that you're going to be working on that you can talk to us about? I know NDAs exist,
Uh-huh.
but is there anything that you're allowed to talk to us about that you're going to be working on here in the future?
Yeah, so I mean it's kind of like a blessing and a curse. I have a lot of scripts that I'm working on right now, and I have one that I'm planning to shoot later this year, maybe like end of fall, and I'm gonna be working on my first feature script, which is very exciting, very scary. But it's great, very exciting. And the next few shorts like Overnights has a little bit more of a message than Demon Juice. Demon Juice is just fun, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And Overnights is a little bit more about capitalism and kind of being squashed by corporations and stuff like that. And then I've got the one I'm looking to shoot later this year is more about like women's autonomy. But again, they're all, they have humor to them. They have horror elements. I want my stuff to be fun and
Yeah.
enjoyable. Like I'm not looking to beat anyone over the head necessarily with anything.
Right. Well, and I think that that's the best way to go about it because obviously, if you have a message you want to get out there, that's very important. But being a horror movie first and having your message be there is some. I always go back to Tales from the Hood. That's one of my favorite movies. It has its message there about social issues and social injustice, but it's definitely a horror movie first. So trying to have that balancing act and walk that tightrope, I can understand being a stressful time for you.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've been taking more courses. I've done like comedy and writing and filmmaking for years, but I've more recently started taking a lot of courses.
Mhm.
And I actually just wrapped up the Sundance Horror Writing Intensive. And one of the big components there was really just kind of like digging into we started out looking at certain movies and scenes and figuring out like okay yeah like this is scary to see, right? But like what's the actual kernel of the thing that's scaring you, what's causing the fear? And then kind of like looking at your own work and thinking about the issues there. And I had an idea for another group of girlfriends for this like found footage vibe. And at first, I was just writing basically a horror sketch, like it was going to be really goofy. And then I was like, oh no, this is about like feeling overlooked by your friends. Oh, I don't want to like, ooh,
Yeah,
that's kind of yucky,
that that's real life horror right
Right.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. So like that, those are the kinds of that's kind of what I'm like exploring and working on right now in my own work is like finding the true like scary or uncomfortable thing and then
Mhm.
like making the fun like blood spatter and laughs around that.
That's awesome. And I can't wait to see what you have coming up in the future because I know that, a lot of people start with shorts and then they move on to features. And I'm not saying this as an insult, but it's not like shorts are easy either. People look at the idea of a short film and they're like, oh, you're doing a short film because you can't do a feature. No, 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 no. A short film is its own art form.
Mhm.
And to be able to tell a whole cohesive story within 5, 10, 15 minutes and make people want to stick around and, get a collection of a story but also to have a fitting ending for a short film, that's very hard to do. You don't have an
Yeah.
hour and 40 to live out and bleach out all your characters. And, I love short horror films because they're short, they're precise, they're to the point, but they are so goddamn entertaining that it's ridiculous. So I love the fact that we still have people that are so into making short film because it's amazing. Like I said, it's its own artwork. And it's not like,
Mhm.
oh man, I don't think I can do a feature. I'll just do shorts. That's easier. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So much kudos to you for all the hard work that you put in as well.
Thank you. Yeah. And, for someone like me, I didn't get to finish college. I couldn't afford a degree. And even then, I wasn't even thinking about like that you could get a degree in film or entertainment like that from where I'm from in Pennsylvania. That's not like real. So I just like didn't get a chance to go to film school. So making shorts for a lot of people, that's how we learn. Like I don't know a lot of terminology. I don't really, I'm still figuring it all out. And I think when a lot of people are viewing these shorts, I think they're not that you should like go easy on us necessarily, but like I don't think a lot of audiences understand that this is our own time, our
Yeah.
own money. A lot of people are
Mhm.
volunteering their talents. So it's a lot in of course, like bigger budget stuff. It's always great too. Everyone's putting in effort, but very often short films are like a community
Oh,
effort that you're
passion.
watching.
I agree with you. We did our first short film. We got the poster for it back here. You can't see it because my background. Home is where the haunt is. Um, it's a movie that was written, directed, starring, edited, produced by Ashley, myself, and one of our friends. It's a real life. It's the real life story of my mother being fictionalized into a horror movie, and I gained a lot of respect for the horror movie, especially the short horror movie community making this movie with all the things you have to go through. And we had 2 days to film it. We went in with a
Yeah.
week, and we found out they were tearing the house down in 2 days. So we had to
Oh,
push it down to
geez.
2 days. So
That's
like I said,
classic.
oh yeah, that whole song and dance. So the respect I have for people that make short films, like I said, we've been there firsthand. We know that it's not easy. So
Yeah.
like I said, it's not one of those scenarios where, you know what, I want to make a feature, but that seems too hard, so I'll just do a short one. That's easier. Absolutely not. You have to tell
Mhm.
a story in a much shorter time without flushing out a lot of characters, a lot of plots. Much harder, in my own personal opinion. So Shannon, we know what you're working on in the future, and we kind of know what you're doing right now. But here for a second, I want to go back to the past. In
Mhm.
order to be a horror writer, horror had to start for you somewhere. So I want to talk about the first horror movie that you watched. And Shannon, your first horror movie was?
Rosemary's Baby.
Oh boy, what a start for a young lady to watch a movie like this. So do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
Yeah, and there's like additional context that makes it even funnier to me at least. So I was like maybe 11 or 12, and I had gone up to my neighbor, like childhood friend's house. And already my mom like didn't love this family because it was one of those houses where like there wasn't a ton of supervision. Like the
Yeah.
younger brother was always like doing some like hazardous shit in the house, and like something bad was always happening. But I was like, this is the fun place. Like, yeah,
Yes.
you could go down the stairs on a cardboard box and like so and so is lighting fires in the bathroom upstairs. That's cool. This is so wild. So we have that. Also, I'm one of 3 kids. Like, we are pretty close in age, and we were never really allowed to watch anything like proper horror. It was only comedies allowed. And I think it's mostly because my parents didn't want to deal with like 3 terrified children. So it was like always comedy, except for what I would consider like children's horror. So like Beetlejuice or spooky cartoons, what have you. So one day I'm up at the friend's house, and she pops in Rosemary's Baby, and we were also Catholic school girls. Like, so we were already like, convinced that like we're impure and like, whatever, and constant danger. And also the devil is real. And like daily seeing like a 12-foot crucified Jesus with like all of his gore and like rib wounds. So like
Yeah.
it's like already like an intense school life, and then very chill, like comedy, relaxed home life. And then I was like thrown into Rosemary's Baby, and I'm also like super anxious. So I remember thinking like we're gonna get in trouble. We're not supposed to watch this. Like
We're
that was
doing
my
hazardous shit.
yeah, like that was my hazardous shit. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna be in trouble with someone. That is my worst fear. Judgment. So like that was scary. And then like I knew this was like, I don't know. I don't believe in the devil right now. I feel like that's a weird thing to say, but as an adult, maybe you need to say it. As a child, I was like, this is like a portal opening. The devil is like about to be welcomed because of Rosemary's Baby. And then, of course, the subject matter is like super intense. And, here I am. I don't know what many things are at that point, and I'm just kind of like thrown into this. I mean, it's an amazing movie, but kind of like batshit crazy for a child to watch,
For sure. There's definitely mature audiences suggested for this film.
Yeah.
Well, and it's one of those films that, like I said, obviously, for those of you that haven't seen Rosemary's Baby, I don't care if I'm spoiling it. The movie's from 40 years old. It does do a lot with sexual assault, rape, subjects that are, even for horror fans, sensitive. I can watch a guy get stabbed in the balls, ass, and face. Can't watch sexual assault. It makes me physically sick. It's
Mhm.
something that I don't get any type of entertainment out of it. And I don't know what it feels like to grow up as a young lady, but I know that as a young boy, watching things like that make you uncomfortable. And the thought of being a young lady, I've always said that, when you're growing up and you're seeing a peer going through something, it hits you a little bit harder. And, she looks like a very young person in this film.
Mhm.
And so you have this thought of, the sexual assault thing. I mean, you see it, but you don't, it's not it's never good. Let's put it that way. I
Right.
don't want to sound like a creep right now, but I've seen much worse sexual assault scenes in movies than this one. Never good, never okay, but at least it's not super graphic. And the reason I'm saying this is it kind of leads me into my next question. Do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
So I've been thinking about this question, and it's I will never give you a straight answer on any question, and I'm sorry. It's like kind of the entire movie was very affecting. I remember like seeing her go in and like, asking about what's wrong with its eyes.
What have you done to it? What have you done to its eyes?
He has his father's eyes.
And like that was very affecting. The scenes with like her doctor and her husband, like these people she's supposed to trust, and like all of these community members are, the term now is gaslighting and it's betrayal. And like all of that is very scary, and especially as a young girl, like realizing that these figures in your life, your doctor, your partner, your family, like the sweet old lady, all of these people can just be deceiving you and end up really damaging you, using your body, taking your soul, and
Taking your
creating a
innocence,
demon baby.
like that alone,
Yeah.
like that is taking your soul to me. Doing something like that to somebody, whether it's male or female. Not only females get sexually assaulted. Let's put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you are male or female, a sexual assault it's never funny. It's never okay. I tell this story a lot, but we were watching Midsommar at the cinema, and we got to the scene where the guy's getting raped, and the old lady's pushing him, and everybody in the theater's laughing, and I'm like, if this was reversed and it was
Yeah.
the girl that this was happening to, would you guys be laughing? And I don't think you would. But I mean, the guy's drugged out of his mind and having forced intercourse with somebody. That's rape.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a subject that is very touchy to me. It's a subject that I feel like is very touchy to everybody. And when you have all these people around you that are in on it, like you said, the people that you're supposed to trust,
Mm-hmm.
your family, your friends, your doctor, your partner, the sweet old lady, I'm gonna ask
Right.
you for sugar, like that's what I want. I don't want this. And they're all there watching it happen. Like, what a sick, disgusting thing to have to happen to anybody.
Right.
Um, and it's one of those movies that has stood the test of time. I've talked to a lot of people that this movie, scared them so much as a kid. We did get a made for TV remake about 10 years ago, I think it was, but remakes, sequels, that's always been all the rage, especially in Hollywood. Would you like to see a theatrical full on remake of Rosemary's Baby done today?
I think so. I think there was actually a recent one that Alana from Broad City did that was being heavily compared to Rosemary's Baby, like kind of a modern version. Of course, there was discourse about that. I haven't seen it. But I don't know. I'm not one of those hardcore people that's like, do not remake, do not try. I definitely think it's worth it to continue making more original things, but yeah, I don't see why not. I think it might be interesting to see a modern take, but at the same time, I think a lot of the content is still relevant.
Right.
And I do have to admit, very similar to Hereditary, since that first watch, I've never seen it again. I was so, I don't know, put off, like the betrayal and the assault. Like, assault is just something I'm never interested in.
Yeah.
And then it was very affecting as a child. Whereas Hereditary, I was thinking, a lot in preparation for this show. Hereditary was so affecting, again, kind of like digging into the kernel there. It's kind of like the betrayal of family.
Mhm.
Of course, I think most people were very shocked by the imagery, which did mess with me for a couple of days after I saw it. Truly, I was terrified. I haven't seen it since. They were showing clips in that intensive I took, and I literally was getting like chills and goosebumps up and down my legs. both I think are very great films, very effective. But again, I think like it kind of gets boiled down to betrayal and loss of self, loss of family, and like just losing control. And those things are all very evergreen because, you know, what are you going to do if you don't have control? What are you going to do if you wake up one day and your partner has completely like flipped a switch and everything's turned upside down on you?
Right. And I will say, when you're talking about Hereditary, Ashley and I saw that in cinema opening night. And when, I'm not going to say it, but when the scene happened, I've never had a cinema experience like that. The whole crowd just going,
yeah, it was like dead silence that entire movie.
What the fuck? I was like,
Yeah.
I know, but I still want to punch that guy behind us that keeps going. But yeah, it's one of those things where, especially when you have something that's very familial, that's something you can relate to. And especially if you've gone through betrayal of a family member, which I think we all have in somewhere, maybe not to this extent, obviously, but we've had that feeling of betrayal from someone we're supposed to trust. So we talk about Rosemary's Baby. That was your first horror movie and what that meant to you. But now, Shannon, I do want to kind of throw a little bit of a curveball at you here for a second. My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Shannon? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Again, I'm the worst person to ask. I think my go-to answer is always going to be, oh my God, Dale and Tucker versus Evil. It's, I don't know. I feel like it's just such a perfect horror comedy. It is so funny. You don't expect so many things. I remember like I forced one of my childhood best friends to sit down and watch it like last year. And I was like, you have to just pay attention. And like, you know, it's going on and on. And have you seen it?
Oh, I was just standing there and he threw himself in the wood chipper.
Okay. Yeah. So I was like, I don't want to give away anything, but again, it's like an older movie. So,
It's
you know,
so goddamn perfect. Like,
just,
the movie's
like,
so funny.
very similar, not very similar, but I guess like I also love Cabin in the Woods, and it's just kind of like taking your expectations and flipping them around. So you have these two like well-meaning hicks and these like hot, sexy stereotype teens who are trying to camp in the woods or whatever. And the teens think the hicks are trying to kill them. The hicks are like, these kids keep killing themselves. This is
suicide
horrific. Pact. Yeah, this is awful. And like, it's just so perfect to me. I love it.
It's
but like
literally a series of unfortunate events.
Yeah.
Like the things that keep happening, like, we got your friend. Oh my God, they got her. We gotta get out of here. Like, it's just that's the total misunderstanding, judging a book by its cover. You know, like that's what the movie is all about and how you shouldn't do that. And one of my favorite things ever that I've ever seen in my life is if you watch the special features on the Blu-ray, they talk about when they're doing the gas station scene and he's eating the pickled eggs. He hates pickled eggs. Like he hates them. So he kept Dale or Tucker kept messing up on purpose. So he would have to keep eating the eggs. And he was like,
why were they real?
It's like he would throw up and like in between takes, he'd be like,
God.
oops, messed up again. Like obviously it's kind of mean spirited, but at the same time, they're having fun on set. And that movie's a blast. If you guys haven't seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil, it's fun. It's got great practical effects. And I love it. I do love that movie. That's one of my favorite things. I can't tell you how many times I've been like, I don't know. I was just standing here and he threw himself in the damn wood chipper. Like,
yeah.
It's just, you know, poured beer on his bee stings. It's such a great movie, man. I totally love that movie. So, great choice. I could do a whole episode about that movie. But now, before I let you go, we've had an amazing time talking about your first horror movie, your favorite horror movie. But now, before I let you go, I always go back to the same question. What we're going to do is go back to Rosemary's Baby, and we're going to rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking this movie on acting, production, score, nothing like that. What we're doing here, Shannon, is strictly ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. What would your ranking of Rosemary's Baby be?
That would be 1 million skulls. Like,
When you said,
so
I'm
many
telling you,
skulls.
I'm always thinking ahead. And when you were like, I
Yeah.
watched it the one time and I could never watch it again,
No.
Ask Ken was right. He was like, you're going to give this 5 skulls when we get to that point.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I think it's like one of those things that if I were to rewatch it, I think, and who's to say I won't? It's just one of those things that I don't know. I guess like subconscious baby Shannon is like, maybe for your protection, we should watch Tucker and like watch something really goofy.
Right.
You know, and that also kind of throws back to my upbringing is like the goofy stuff is safe. But again, I think it's very worth, you know, revisiting those really serious topics. You know, it's a good movie that again I think is just the message is always going to be relevant.
And it's fucking terrifying. It is a scary
Yeah.
movie. So I said it at the beginning, guys, but we are at the end of the 3rd act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, there are some social media links down here in the description that need your love. So make sure that you are following Shannon on social media so you can stay up to date on all the projects that she has coming up in the future. Shannon, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.